the Bloodsands.
Oh, really?
Dune's first true PvP battleground.
Oh crap, oh my god, I accidentally...
A vital location strategically placed on the Haga Basin map. A brainchild of mine.
Oh, is that your base?
Born out of a feeling that something essential is missing from Dune Awakening's endgame. Right now, as we know, PvP almost always boils down to ornithopter skirmishes in the deep desert, chaotic flybys with rockets firing from above, you know the drill, and there's barely any meaningful ground combat. It's just a lot of griefing with people unmotivated to play PvP at all. But what if there was a place that could change that in a way? That's what the Bloodsands is meant to be. It's not just the Coliseum, though the centerpiece is an arena carved from the desert itself.
Whatever you did, it just completely sucked out all of my stamina. Yep.
A place where you can settle grudges and test builds in raw, open combat. Surrounding it are training grounds and skirmish pits, smaller arenas where duels and team fights can break out without the pressure of the main stage. And because I know Dune Awakening is as much about strategy as it is combat, Bloodsands has been designed with utility in mind. There's ample space to land your ornithopters, park your vehicles, and regroup and even spectate. It's structured, but not restrictive, open, but with purpose. Now, I know I'm just one content creator, one lonely YouTuber who had this idea, so maybe this can be something that will spark an idea in the devs' minds. Because everything that we have now, the updates, the patch notes, are discussing things that players are not as interested in relation to what the game needs when it comes to PvE in-game content and PvP in-game content. We can discuss that later, but as I describe this to you, I'm no architect, and I don't have much experience when it comes to managing space for base building. Maybe a little, but this idea simply came from a spark of creativity, something I felt compelled to share with the Dune Awakening community. This video is going to run a bit longer than usual because it's multifaceted, and there are timestamps in the description, so if you want to skip to the parts you're most interested in, feel free. But honestly, I don't think anyone playing Dune Awakening today has come up with a base concept quite like this. Firstly, because it's nearly impossible to pull off effectively, and second, because the base requires a level of architectural thinking most players aren't really willing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Bloodsands. I'm so excited about this, you have no idea. I'll be giving you a full grand tour, but first, just look at it. Before we get into the how, I need to talk about why I even thought this was possible in the first place. There were two moments of inspiration that gave me the courage and honestly, the understanding to even try a base like this. The very first time I saw someone build a true mega guild base in the game, it blew my mind. A base made by a YouTuber named Morphologist with a caption, "We built this." Seeing that opened my eyes. I was both intrigued and intimidated. Not fully able to grasp the actual depth Dune Awakening had, but overall, it showed me that with enough planning and creativity, I could build something on this scale, and I did. Secondly, when I joined a guild for the first time, I met my guildmate who built the base, named 𝐿𝐿𝐼. Pretty much all he's interested in is building bases. And here it is. And as you can see, it's a very extravagant guild base. I remember just staring at it like, man, how did he pull this off? This is crazy. So when I initially thought of this Bloodsands idea, I wanted 𝐿𝐿𝐼 and I to work on it together. I sent him this ChatGPT design concept, and he told me, and I quote, "Yeah, that sounds like something we could do. Let me know when you get a spot picked. Finding a large enough flat area without worms might be a challenge." Now, I love a challenge, so I immediately went out with my ornithopter to search for spots, and boom, I found what seemed to be the perfect area in no man's land, the sands of 𝐒𝐻𝐿, a landscape that allowed for two islands to be interconnected which could also leave room for a worm pit. The excitement was quickly building. I started buying land claims like, oh yeah, we about to do this. But the crazy thing is that I completely forgot that this had to be in a PvP zone. Otherwise it would just be obsolete. This made things 10 times more difficult to pull off successfully. And that's when it clicked. What Loki said to me. Finding a large enough flat area without worms might be a challenge. So, after spending so much Solari on land claims, I had to sadly abandon the base, but I just couldn't let it go. This concept was too great not to follow through on. So the next journey began, and I started to scout PvP zones everywhere, starting with Sheol. I checked the wreck of the Euphoria, past the radiation zone. That was a no. I tried the wreck of the 𝐒𝐚𝐽. That didn't feel right either. It had to be just right. And then I found it. The wreck with the perfect aspect ratio. The server I'm in is Frostholm 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐽𝐸, and if you're here too, you'll want to head to the wreck of the palace, south of the eastern shield wall, across the 𝒉𝒂𝒧𝒔. Pretty much dead center on the map. Here's why this location was perfect, and this is also where things got interesting. I had to be very precise in the beginning when constructing my advanced subfiefs, because every PvP zone has a no build zone surrounding it, illustrated by a red barrier while in build mode. So I lined my subfiefs perimeter perfectly with the no build zone's perimeter. This made it symmetrically line up along the entire front of the no build zone, giving me just the right amount of space to build between the barrier and worm territory. This base was not easy to make, man. But it was beyond satisfying. And during the first half of the build, I felt like 𝐒𝐻𝐿UD and I got to know each other very well, like some healthy competition, right? He kept trying to swallow my base whole. Every time the sand trembled when I saw that indicator, it was a signal letting me know where I couldn't build. Quick tip, here's something I'm sure a lot of you don't know. If you build one little piece of plastone or granite within an inch of worm territory, he will pop out of the sand with a warning that tells you, move it, or else this happens. This is amazing. As long as your base is not in worm territory, even if the worm pops up within your base, it will not get swallowed. Furthermore, I was immune from that worm attack as well. But as I was looking over the patch notes for the update that's coming in August, I noticed they've added something to the world building and exploration section, wherein if you collide with any part of the worm's body, you or your vehicle, whatever, will be completely destroyed. So I'm assuming this is in build mode as well, or within your base. Just make sure you're careful. So I'm glad I've completed the base now, knowing the base's exact dimensions. But all of these discoveries have taught me so much, and by the end of it, I'd carved out my own territory right at the edge of his, preserving the space without provoking him. That's why Bloodsands even exists, and without that delicate balance, this arena would just be unfinished. This back and forth with 𝐒𝐻𝐿UD sparked another idea, using the worm as a part of the fight itself. Here's what I learned. There are two ways 𝐒𝐻𝐿UD appears. First, if you build inside his territory, as I said before, he'll pop up with a warning and then swallow that specific spot, preserving the rest of the base. Second, if you're standing on his sand for a period of time and see that warning sign turn red, a few seconds later he'll breach from the ground, then charge straight at you. Now here's the key discovery. At first, I thought I could force like a constant worm trigger by putting a platform way high above in his territory connected to mine. The idea was that it would make him keep popping up endlessly, like a hazard timer. But after testing, I realized if you build high enough that he can't reach when he pops up, the worm won't even aggro. He won't waste the effort. That changed everything. Instead of forcing him, I built the Bloodsands to work with what 𝐒𝐻𝐿UD actually does. Now when players step on his sand, they trigger that second behavior, the breach, then you get that moment of warning and then the charge. And that makes the worm pit even better because every fight in there has this looming danger, Now let's pivot a little bit, okay? Because let's talk about how this can be transitioned to the community in a way. And since every server has its own exchange and it's not server wide, which it really should be, I can't just list the Bloodsands blueprint and have players across every server pick it up. If it was server-wide, this would be the perfect way to sell the design and let anyone recreate it exactly how I built it in the exact same spot. But here's where I had a breakthrough idea, right? The deep desert exists on every server, every siege. It's all there. That means that I can take the 𝐒𝐮𝐷 replicator and use it to rebuild the Bloodsands in the deep desert. It means everyone, regardless of what server you're on, can experience Bloodsands. One week I might set it up near a shipwreck, another week near a spice field hotspot. Every time the arena will come alive again. A moving, evolving PvP battleground for every server. But as I wrap this up, I've been living and breathing this project for days, sketching layouts, testing the dimensions, and making sure the worm pit works exactly how it should. But I can't ignore the bigger picture that everyone is discussing. DuneAwakening has seen an 80% player drop just 7 weeks after release. That's not something to gloss over, and it's not something that's going to fix itself. Funcom is making changes, some important quality of life fixes and some that definitely affect how we play, like the worm's new behavior. But here's the problem. These changes aren't addressing the real issues that every player is discussing. We do need bug fixes, of course, that's just the culture of gaming. That's how it works in development. But we don't just need safe zones. We need a reason to log in again and again. Where are the PvE dungeons? Where are the dedicated ground combat arenas that give us structure, not just chaos in the sky? Where's the content that creates meaningful replay value? Right now, too much of DuneAwakening's PvP boils down to ornithopter flybys, like I said before, and if we're being honest, that's not enough to keep a game like this thriving. That's why I built Bloodsands, because I wanted to see if I could fill at least a little bit of that gap. I wanted to create a space that isn't simply a structure, but a reason to gather, to fight, and return. And while I've been in my own little world working on this, I couldn't help but think about what needs to come next. So here's the deal. This video, this arena, this is about what I built. But in my next video, I'm going to go into what Funcom has to build. We're going to talk about that 80% player drop. We're going to talk about what should be done to stop it. And we're going to talk about what you can do right now with the gear you have and the changes coming to get the most out of what DuneAwakening has today. Because while Bloodsands is my contribution to this world, the conversation about where this game goes from here, that's a much bigger fight, and it's one we need to have. Anyways, that'll do it for this one. I want you to basically tell me what you think about this. I'll be posting my Discord where Bloodsands will be in the deep desert so that you can go visit it for yourself. And please don't be toxic, because there's not anything in there you can use once you break into the base. There's no resources, just a structure. I hope this does something for the community in this time of uncertainty with the game's future in-game, but I'm enjoying it. I think with a game like this, there is just a lot for me to do in my mind. And don't get me wrong, I understand the redundancy and why people are leaving. Eventually, every game has a point where you feel that way. Some have shorter spans than others. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it for this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I hope this was inspiring to you. If it was, then like the video. And don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I'll see you in the next one. Be right out.